The following presentation is part of the Beyond the Blast Doors network.
Welcome to the Bombadcast. What's going on, Bombad fam? Maybe we're lagging, maybe we're not, but I want to say this. Hope everyone's having a great day today. I have a very special guest. He'll be showing up in just a moment, though. Just a moment. Hold on, please. So, if you've listened before, if you haven't, well, maybe you just don't pay attention. Welcome to the Bombadcast. I'm Scotty Jero, and we're a part of the Beyond the Blast Doors network. I'm going to get it one day. And I am so happy to say that we've got a bunch of other great content creators on our network. We've got people like Around the Galaxy. We've got Holo Chronicles, Beyond the Blast Doors Live. We've got Bounty Hunting, which is a show we pretty much go and play this game show dealing with things off eBay and other really great collectible sites like Let Go and everything else. And I'm just so happy to say that we all together are this conglomerate group of content creators that bring different things to the table every week. So with all that being said, if you've liked that, and if you've listened to other podcasts of this network since your first time with Bombadcast, please come on in and sit down. I've got something special for you today. And everything else dealing with Beyond the Blast Doors can be found at beyondtheblastdoors.com. And if you really, really, really like it, you know, you can only like it so much. But if you really like it so much, you can easily support us at our Patreon page, beyondtheblastdoors.com. I guess you can find the information there. But make sure you follow Bombadcast as well on Twitter. It's at Bombadcast. And if you'd like to support us, Patreon, always there. But not only would you support our show, you would support every other show on the network with just $5 a month. We'll grant you access to all kinds of great things. And speaking of something special, speaking of money and finances, not that you even want to talk about listen about that right now, I will say Beyond the Blast Doors has what we're calling the Hyper Toy Drive, okay? And as of right now, we've got so many great things coming in to our destination point in New Jersey. But we have a charity event going on. And like many charity events this year, Toys for Tots has been hit pretty hard by COVID, okay? And the families need that support, right? More than ever, especially with what we got going on. We are proud to be a part of a dozen Star Wars content creators, including, we've got a ton. We got Around the Galaxy, obviously. We got the network people, Holo Chronicles, Beyond the Blast Doors. We've got Idiot's Array. We've got Kessel Run Transmissions. We've got Kanata's Castle. We've got the Sith List. We've got Star Wars Explained. We've got Steel Wars and Tarkin's Top Shelf and Tatooine Sons. All these groups have come together to spread the word on this. And it really is very easy to donate, okay? It is just got to go to, it says right here, beyondtheblastdoors.com/toy drive, all right? It's the Amazon wish list, okay? What you're going to do is you're going to pick whatever you want to donate and send to these kids. I've already got a good couple of things, and I sent a Baby Yoda doll, and apparently all you got to do is pay for it. The shipping and everything gets handled on the other end of Amazon. So you address it to the BTBD Toy Drive, and we'll ship it, and they'll make sure it comes to the spot where it's all picked up at, and it's going to go directly to these kids in New Jersey that have been affected by COVID and everything else dealing with, what we have going on in the world, unfortunately. If you can please take a moment to consider donating to it, it would be fantastic. And I think that is honestly something that could really help a lot of people right now. And I've done it. I'd imagine other people are going to do it. Maybe my guest. I don't know. Maybe. And with all that being said, I got to bring in my guest. Okay. My guest is, to me, one of my favorite content creators out there. I listen to mostly every show. Okay. Can't always get to every one of them. You can admit that. It's okay to admit that. This right here, okay? This right here, I met him briefly at Celebration, and he has a giant love, one of the biggest loves for the prequels and all things behind the scenes, okay? I know this man's watched the beginning maybe more times than he's watched the actual movie, The Phantom Menace. So I'm going to bring him in right now. It is the one and only Brandon Winnerty from Talking Bay 94. Brandon, how are we feeling, brother?
What's up, man? Thank you for having me. This is great.
I'm stoked. And, you know, as you can tell in the background, we've got Rick and we've got George, and they're like right next to R2. And I don't know, that photo just gets me giddy, okay? And I had to have you on for this. You doing okay?
I'm doing good, man. And I'll tell you, that Jedi hat that Lucas is wearing in that photo, I've tried so hard to buy that hat on eBay or on Prop Store. One day I will have that hat.
Okay, is it his, or was that a hat he had, you know, like a bunch of hats that made like that?
Yeah, it's a Revenge of the Sith like crew hat. So there's multiple that exist somewhere. Yeah. I just have to spend like $500 to get it. But one day,
you'll find it. You'll find it.
How bad could it be?
It's, you know, and I don't know if anyone follows Brendan on Twitter, but every other day it's a post and always makes me laugh. It says, "Please don't let me buy this." And the most recent one was the greatest one. It was the one with the Ewok mask, and it's just terrifying. It's like, it's just like the creepiest looking face. And, you know, honestly, I mean, not that I make good money, but if I had any money left over and I wasn't dating someone and I was living under a bridge, I would 100% buy as a much, you know, replica or actual movie prop as possible. And I think you have. What do you have? Anything in particular?
I'm trying to think of things I have from the actual movie. The closest thing I have some call sheets from, and it says like Blue Harvest on it, which I thought was cool.
Oh, wow.
But then mostly the collectibles that I do end up getting that are more cast and crew items are just like shirts and hats and stuff like that. That like, so nothing that was like made for a Star Wars movie yet, but one day, every so often, I could probably have gotten something. I have a couple of like animation cells from Ewoks. But those are pretty easy to grab. So
I've seen those before too. And one thing I remember you posting about, and I actually see in the background, is your Jabba, that one that Phil Tippett, I believe, had made. Was that Phil Tippett?
Yeah, Phil Tippett made it. It's in the documentary from Star Wars to Jedi, and so that's how I first saw it. And then Regal Robot, who make every week, Regal Robot posts like, "Here's our new product for the week," and I'm like, you guys are just making this so that I buy it, because like, I mean, you can't see it out of frame. I have like a Blue Harvest director's chair that they made, but then my bathroom. One day I wake up and they're like, "Hey, FYI, like we did make the plaque of the Docking Bay 94 logo," and I was like, so like, Tom, you know me pretty well. Like you did this on purpose so that I would spend $150 on this plaque. And then he just did Docking Bay 35, which is from Mando, where Pelly is. And I'm like, I could get both and like have a nice little companion piece. But I'm a good boy. I really I like to tweet about buying things. Yeah. But I'm very specific of what I want. And so I try not to go, overboard that often.
Oh no, it's one of those things where you see it and like your lizard brain or whatever it is like buy it. And like I couldn't imagine the Docking Bay 94 one.
It was I think I forgot where I was. I was not at my house when I saw the tweet. Yeah. I've been like with my like fiance's family, and I was just like, everyone stop for a second. Someone just made a collectible that I think was made just for me. And I'm sure it was not, because I'm sure many people have bought it, but it was really cool to see that. And Regal Robot does incredible things. And I'm glad I did a payment plan for this guy, and he is 100% worth it. So
that's awesome. See, I'm waiting. I don't know what it would be. It would have to be like just a mold of Rick McCallum's face for me to
there you go.
Have, it'd have to be something that's like, or the hat Rick McCallum wore at the very end of the Phantom Menace that's like 15 feet tall.
Oh, that's a good idea. You could do a Ben Burt, Rick McCallum. Was John Knoll in that shot too?
I don't know.
You could do their 3 hats or 2 hats.
That is literally the oh, come on now, Scott, your American history. What's the mountain with all the presidents' faces on it?
Mount Rushmore.
Okay, that is the Mount Rushmore of Star Wars prequels right there, and in particular the beginning. Dude, the one thing I would want, and I know you've probably seen the Nerd Matters pin before.
I have it. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, but you want the thing,
dude.
That'd be great.
Imagine if they put that out, just the visor and the half Jar Jar head. I would lose my mind.
I bet. I mean, yes, I would love an actual prop replica of that because that'd be awesome.
Sure.
And both of our wheelhouses. But now I'm trying to think like I could probably make that. You know what I mean? I could probably spend some time in a couple weeks, maybe like over Christmas break.
Really take your time,
and make it. Like anyway, that's a different conversation. We'll take that off air. But I bet I could make that and walk around my house with it and be like, no, look up here, everyone. Like my eyes are up here.
Perfect. That's so perfect. That and like seeing it on set. We'll talk about that anyway.
Right.
No, kind of back to it. Sorry, Brandon. You're just one of these guys that I know I can nerd out with for hours, in particular, just with the prequels and being a fan of collecting as well. Brandon, tell us more about your show, okay? Because I know you've been doing it for what, 2 years now? Am I correct on that?
2.5 years, yeah.
Okay, and you have a very specific, I guess, niche that you always want to go for with each one of your shows, more so than other people. Do you usually get an actor on your show or no? Is it always usually? I mean, I've seen the one with Anthony Scotty, but have you? I don't actually really know this for a fact, but have you gotten like the actors or more or less the behind the scenes people?
It depends. At the very start of the show, if you scroll all the way to the beginning, so Talking 94 is me interviewing one-on-one people that worked on Star Wars in some capacity. And so a lot of that is ILM, Industrial Light and Magic, visual effects legends, because that's like what I really like. But then it really depends. Voice actors, we've had Sam Witwer, we had Greg Grunberg. At the very beginning, we had a bunch of, I love the people in the suits and the puppeteers and everything like that. So that's always been a big drive for me. And a lot of the things that I reach out for at least and try to get. We just had Emily Swallow, who played the Armorer, and then Missy Rosas, who played Queel. So it just depends. And like when I find my sweet spot, which most of the time is the people behind masks or the people behind the scenes, rather than the actors, it really is kind of what gets me going. I will say I would never say no to like Daisy Ridley. You know what I mean? Like I would never say no to an actual actor. And I've reached out to a ton. It is just not easier is the wrong word, but it has stories that might not be able to be told otherwise, especially actors have certain PR obligations that they can't really like dish or talk. But you can talk to the people that like made the shots happen. You can talk to the people that actually worked in a room with George Lucas for 3 months. And those are the people that really have stories that have not really been told yet, which I really find interesting.
See, I love that because something very similar happened with BTB Live recently. We had John Knowles on, the guy that did Star Wars Bounty. Okay, so one of the things he said that was just incredible, because stories like this get me so excited. He said one time he was on set and someone hit Rick McCallum's car, and he said Rick McCallum lost his mind. And I'm like, that would be what I want to. Those are the stories I love hearing.
Right.
Like maybe George not finding the right door to open, like he does in the beginning. It's just like. That's the kind of stuff I live for. And there's moments like that on your show where you hear just small stuff. And of course, some of these episodes, are just so detailed in terms of what people do. And you really do pull some great questions and some really good people. So it's a really fantastic show. If you never listened to Talking Bay 94, it's got a really great aesthetic as well. I don't know. I just love the design of everything and the way everything sounds. It's pretty chef's kiss. And
thank you.
Is there a particular moment? One of my favorite ones you've told before, I believe it was on Pete's show, was about when Dennis Muren was on screen. Can you tell the listeners about that real quick?
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest. I've had a list of people that I've wanted on the show, and we'll talk about a lot of them during this episode. But one of the ones that was very, very, very high up on the list was Dennis Muren, won the most Academy Awards of any living person, and like a big hero of mine. And normally when I do episodes, especially before Zoom, this was before quarantine, so people weren't as used to video calls. I would just call them, especially for the older guys, the ILM, veterans. I would just kind of call them and then record it through my phone and kind of spruce up the audio as necessary. Dennis Muren, though, was like, here's my Skype. I was like, great. And so I just called him via audio Skype just to, I don't want to presume anything. And I'm just kind of sitting there and I'm very nervous, obviously. And all of a sudden, like his face pops up on the screen. And I was like, hello, like, okay, like we're about to do this. I feel good. Okay. But it was great. It was like 30 minutes of him just like looking me right in the eyes.
Oh my God.
But it was fun, man. But yeah, it just really depends on the person. But I let them tell their story the best way they feel comfortable. And so I'm glad Dennis Muren felt comfortable just staring me in the eye for 30 minutes.
He seems like such a nice guy. And like every interview you see of him, like I just think he's so stoic too, you know, and he's so honest. He's so real. And I'd imagine that was one of those moments where you're like, oh, pinch me. Like what is happening? Yeah. Like I see him right there. Oh, that's so sick. That's awesome. Yeah, that's cool. Great. Well, you know, as you can see the title below us, it says, thank the prequel makers. Okay. And Brandon and I are of the generation that the prequels are kind of our bread and butter, right? We love the OT. The OT is great, but we got to see all these in theaters when they were new, and we were growing up with all these. And Brandon's just a few years older than me, and Brandon might have a different perspective than I do. But like, I had to get you on this show because of this episode, right? And this just fits you. You know the makers. You've talked to a lot of the makers. So I don't know. What made you fall in love with just wanting to learn about the makers of Star Wars and, you know, everything from sound design to set design to script supervisor? Like what made you love that?
Yeah. I mean, I really think it's a testament to how George Lucas treated home video and the further marketing of his movies. I mean, you have all the way back to the original trilogy, like we were talking about a second ago, like from Star Wars to Jedi or Classic Creatures. Yep. He was always making these documentaries and always trying to push that. But then, of course, when you were able to watch it on home video for cheap, my first box set was the special editions. Yes. And so the Anatomy of the Dewback is like the first special feature, you know, I've ever seen. Dennis Muren was the first person I saw on that documentary. And then you kind of go through a spiral where that age that we were when these DVDs especially were coming out with the beginning and then with the Star Wars box set for the original trilogy especially.
Yep.
There was this really focus on the behind the scenes legends that really just like kind of got me going. And honestly, I was, you know, a subscriber to the Star Wars Insider, which is below me right here, all of my old issues. And they would always like interview all these people. And so I knew their names almost better than the actual actors. And it really just kind of prolonged this lifelong obsession with, especially the making of Star Wars, but then expanding that to, you know, I always say Star Wars is the best film school you can have, because then you go to Kurosawa, you go to the old serials, you go to what sci-fi used to be, you go to whatever influenced George Lucas, and then now you have what makes a full tapestry of movies. So
and you're so right too. Just like George really knew what he was doing with behind the scenes stuff, whereas you wouldn't have got that anyone else. Like I have it right here. Hold on, I have the making of Star Wars, and I believe it's aired on TV. You can tell me if I'm correct or not, but it's like this. It's the one with 3PO and R2, and they're like talking in this weird, not looking Star Wars set, and they're like, "Oh, this is Darth Vader." Like I've watched that recently, and I think I actually might have it recorded if you want it. But I have it, and it's just I think it was made. Yeah, it made in '77. It's just like it's genius. It's so genius, and I never had the special editions growing up. So the Dewback one's actually a new one for me. Okay. And I watched it recently, and it's really good. And you see Rick McCallum on there, all young and stuff. But the ones I remember vividly was this box set, right?
Yep. Love that
one
too.
Very beginning, they have the Leonard Maltin interviews. And I believe that's where I heard the word director for the first time. And like,
I love it.
As a kid, you know, that's what you automatically associate certain things with. So it's that, I mean, and George is looking studly in that. And you know what I'm talking about. He's got he's sitting like this, and he looks all cool, and he's got the turtleneck on with the gray blazer. Whoo!
Yeah, I love it. I was able to, I was at a film festival in Austin for work.
Yeah.
And so since I was working, I was very professional, and like there were a lot of, I mean, pretty big names that were there. Like Ari Aster was there, Ryan Johnson was there.
Oh, wow.
Taika Waititi, like they were all there. And I was very professional. I was like, I'm not gonna do this, you know. But Leonard Maltin was there, and I was like,
yes!
Leonard Maltin, hello. And I like really like I don't fanboy that often. I take pride in like being very professional about how I kind of treat things. But Leonard Maltin, man, I just kind of went all in, just like what you're saying. Like, those interviews at the beginning of those VHSs are incredible, and like the first times I was like, oh, Star Wars is something beyond me thinking this is a cool action figure, you know. Because then later with Empire of Dreams on the original trilogy DVD box set, you get more of that. But that's the first time you're like, oh, this has like historical value. This has like beyond anything. I shouldn't feel guilty about liking this because it means something historically.
It's one of those things you watch young just because you want to watch more Star Wars. Like the Revenge of the Sith DVD had some great stuff on it, right?
Oh yeah.
And I'll never forget. I think that might have been one of the first DVDs I got, like, and put it in my PS2, like for my own. You know, it wasn't like it was my sister's or my mom's or whoever. Mm-hmm. And I remember watching that thing forwards and backwards, maybe for like the whole summer, or like when it came out in November. So I'm pretty sure I watched it maybe the whole Christmas break. But like, seriously, there's something about behind the scenes docs, especially Star Wars ones, and even the ones in the sequel trilogy have been so top tier. And I don't know, the beginning might be honestly one of my favorite documentaries of all time, just because of how real it is. And I mean, if anyone hasn't seen your shirt yet, I mean, let's show that off for a second.
Yeah, it is a quote. Yeah.
And as anyone knows, I mean, the Bombadcast's logo is obviously Jar Jar Binks. So I'm a huge fan of the fact that you have a love for that too. And I'm sure you've got all kinds of weird stories, you know, with just being involved with certain people that have been in the making of stuff. So real quick, I'm going to get a slideshow pulled up and we'll talk about that, because now, you know, these makers of Star Wars are really big into doing more Star Wars. It's really weird. So give me one moment. Let me share my screen. All right, it should be shared. All right, so there it is. Wonderful name. There it is. All right, so with that being said, Matthew Wood started all off. He's obviously, what you might know more. Was he prequels or a little bit before the prequels?
He had just started when Phantom Menace came around, and so he was Ben Burt's protege.
Okay.
At Skywalker Sound. And so when Ben Burt started making more of a move towards editing, especially for 2 and 3, he kind of took over the sound design role, especially with the latter 2 prequel movies, and then has obviously stayed there since. He's still working there. He's the top dog over there, really. And then his protege, what's his name? David Collins. Is that right? No, David Accord. Sorry, David Accord. Okay. David Collins also a Skywalker Sound guy, but David Accord is his protege, who also voiced like Rod of the Hutt. Like, anyway, all that to be said. So Matthew Wood, though, has kind of taken on the responsibilities that we would associate Ben Burt with now, especially for Star Wars, like kind of the keeper of all those sounds.
Yeah.
But then back then he was obviously General Grievous. He was the battle droids. And, you know, just a solid guy. He appeared in my fan film when I was in sophomore year of high school, I think. I have to find that somewhere.
No way.
Which was nice of him. So, you know.
What do you mean appeared in your fan film? You got to elaborate more on that.
Well, so I mean, something that we talked about off air, but I was very lucky where conventions were a really big part of my life because I grew up in Dallas, Texas, which is where a lot of not just like Comic-Cons happened, but like Star Wars specific conventions happened because of the fact that Official Pix, who owned the autograph and photograph license for Star Wars during that time, were based.
Yeah.
And so they would every year, if there was not a celebration, they would have their own mini celebration called Star Wars Fan Days, which would be literally like 40 actors that were all like rando behind the scenes people and like Zam Wessel and, you know, like people that never made another convention appearance. And it would be 3 minutes from my house. And so I was able to like really kind of bask in that, really kind of be a part of that, which, you know, I do not take for granted at all. But then in high school, I convinced all my buddies to like, I was in like a film elective or whatever. So we did a movie. I wrote a short film of what would happen if a Trek fan went to a Star Wars convention. So I dressed up one of my friends as like Spock. And then he would go around. I'd have like the cosplayers like beat him up, you know. But then like Matthew Wood like did like a destroy him or something, you know, in the General Grievous voice. I have to find it. I deleted it off of all the social medias, you know. But I bet if I watched it now, I bet it wouldn't be that bad. It would be bad. No. It wouldn't be that bad, right?
And I just love the fact that he would be the one to agree to it, you know.
Oh, yeah, no, he was. I was like, this dude's gonna say yes. I know, yes. Because I could have asked any of the other people in that room, and I was like, no. Matthew Wood got my back. So
that's awesome. And you know, this photo of you, I mean, this is real young. How old were you when this photo was taken?
Let's think. So this is not Dallas Fan Days. This is Celebration 4. in Los Angeles. So that's the 30th anniversary of Star Wars. And I convinced my mom to go to Los Angeles. Like, my uncle lived in Los Angeles at the time. So I was like, oh, we could like family trip, but also I could go to Star Wars Celebration. And so I was 14 probably in that photo.
Yeah.
And so I was like, I was like right on the cusp of being cute and being not cute. And so I was able to like, go and like, I'm not going to share all of them with you, but you can imagine this photo, but like me and General Veers, me and Biggs Darklighter, me and Tarful, right? Like I was able to go around and like be kind of cutesy and like take all those photos, which now would be $60 each or something.
Oh, yeah.
But it was a great experience, and like still like one of the best things that I've ever done, because I was able to kind of really, for the first time, see even a larger Star Wars fandom that I really hadn't seen otherwise. But then my next celebration was last year at Chicago.
That's wild.
So, yeah,
that's wild. See, the best thing about that is the fact that you could get away with doing that, and so what year was Celebration 4? I'm not really aware of the years.
2007.
Okay.
In Anaheim.
Okay.
Maybe it was Los Angeles proper. But yeah, it was celebrating the 30th of Star Wars. So the headline guests were Carrie and Irvin.
Oh, wow.
Irvin Kershaw's.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that was really cool. But yeah, really, I mean, again, like very paramount to like my appreciation of Star Wars. And like I saw Lauren Peterson there for the first time giving a talk at like a random table. He signed my badge. Like it was like a bunch of stuff that like now has come really weirdly full circle for me. I have the program still from Celebration 4, and like just going through that guest list, I'm like, oh, I've interviewed 70% of the people that were there, which I think I'm like, wow, like that's like if you had told someone, 14-year-old Brandon that, he would have been like, okay,
that's just incredible, man.
So that's cool. That's really cool.
And you know what? We talked about this off air too. The fact that you were a big fan of this stuff through and through, like your love didn't die past 2005, whereas mine did, and it came back in 2014. That first teaser. But you seem to have really stuck through it. What was that like? Because that's kind of a surreal thing.
It was dark, man. I mean, obviously, I loved it, and I have so much fond memories of just still like being a part of the community, even as it shrunk. Right? Like, you have Revenge of the Sith come out. And that's really the height of everything, right? The height of the StarWars.com fan forums, the height of hyperspace, the height of feeling like you were part of a big community. And then once that movie happens, there are, of course, the rumors of the TV show. But then there's really nothing. Like from 2005 to 2014, you have Clone Wars come out, which was great. But then you have, some video games here and there. You have rumors of the TV show. And then you have things like Robot Chicken and Family Guy. You have the spoofs coming. You have the M&M toys. You have all these things that weren't like really new Star Wars. But you still have to like kind of carve a community from it. And so that was when I was in college at that point. And it was really still like me figuring out like, okay, what does it mean for me to be a Star Wars fan in college, right? And that was really, I think I told Pete that when I was on the show, like, one of my favorite books that I have back here is my original Making of Star Wars book by Rinsler, because I had to like decide like, okay, this is a $60 book in,
that is a surreal moment.
12, and I'm, in college, and I'm like, okay, either like I eat ramen for a week and get this book, or I can like live my life. And I got the book, and like, so it was more just, it felt a lot more personal to me, which is good and bad. I think some people like really take Star Wars personally, but then I was in college when they made the announcement that Disney Star Wars was happening, and that it had been bought, and then in the press release it says, and episode 7 is in production. And I remember driving from class, and I see the tweet notification, right, saying that happened, and then I get like 10 texts from my friends saying, have you seen this?
Oh,
like,
wow.
And then I'm at a stoplight and I see all that, and then I don't remember how I got home, and I just the next thing I remember is I'm just in bed, like laying, like I'm just like I'm like, okay, like here we go. And then what's incredible in terms of timing, we talked about, like I was able to watch the original trilogy in the theaters with the special editions and remember it, and like see all the toys and see all that, and then be very hyper aware for Phantom Menace, be primed for it, and then be extra primed to then Force Awakens came out the day I graduated grad school, and I started like that day. And so then from then on, like I was really able to like be like, okay, I'm back in the real world, quote unquote. and I have, money, and I have time, and I have a 9 to 5, and then I have free time, let me reinvest again into Star Wars and like really care even more than I already did. And so timing wise for being a Star Wars fan, I'm very, very lucky. So anyone else born in 1992, I hope they're on the same kind of path, because it's been really, really incredible.
Well, see, you bring up a bunch of good points too, and like something I want to bring in. I mean, I don't know how close you are out if you watch Star Wars Explained or anything, but that was the jumping off point. I had been watching The Force Awakens, and all of a sudden 2016 came around, and he started Star Wars Minute and stuff, and I was like, wow, like this is a weird moment in like fandom where everything was starting to come up, kind of fall back into place, and I fell in love with it. I started watching Clone Wars before The Force Awakens came out, so everything I missed out on, and I'm sure, were you watching those when they were coming out new on Cartoon Network back in the day?
So I watched, because here's a separate story, which is the Clone Wars movie comes out right in theaters, and I'm like, family, we are going to see the Clone Wars in the theater. It's the Star Wars in the theater. I have the ticket stub still. We're gonna see this. And they're like, okay, Brandon. And then we watched it. The Clone Wars movie, for how great the Clone Wars is, it's not very indicative of the quality of the Clone Wars.
Oh, yeah.
And so I was like, all right, like, sorry. Like, I don't know. Like, I'm sorry you didn't enjoy it. So I watched the first 2 seasons pretty regularly. And then college, I think I literally went to college right after that. So then I just like I didn't have cable. And then they put it on Netflix finally with the Lost Missions, I believe, is how they did that. Good. Mm-hmm. And so then that's how I got back in. So for a couple years, I just wasn't watching, but I was definitely reading everything still. So that's the other part of like my Star Wars fandom. You can see this is a very, very small bookshelf behind me. Yeah. The bigger bookshelf is in the other room. But Star Wars books have always been just like a huge part of my fandom. And so I was reading the Star Wars books really until the Disney purchase.
That's awesome.
And like, I don't know if I was reading them almost out of repetition more than like devotion to the expanded universe. So when they were like, hey, like we are rebooting it, I wasn't like, how dare you?
I get it. Clean slate, man. And like
they were still there.
Your love didn't go into remission quite as much as most people's did. And like, I had to relearn my love of Star Wars. And, and I'm sure you've had this happen with different fandoms too, but your love of something says a lot about yourself, right? And like I had a hard time coping with the fact that I had loved music growing up and all throughout high school. And 2014 is when I started college, and then 2015 is obviously when the film came out. But like realizing that love was still there was very surreal. And like, do I embrace it all the way or do I not? And I honestly think if I was in a different moment of my life, I wouldn't have embraced it as much. But kudos to you for really embracing it through and through, because some people, they get kind of, I used to watch Star Wars when I was a kid, and they see the new movies now, and they call me like, oh my God, that new movie was great. Whereas they don't embrace it as much anymore. And I don't know, maybe it's just the hyper nerd in us or the content creator in us. But I don't know. I want to ask you this too, because this came out of my mind. Yeah. Did you see the Phantom Menace 3D in theaters? Were you that cool?
I did.
Me too.
So yeah,
Me too.
I was in college when it happened, and it was a similar situation like the Clone Wars movie. And I was like in college, and luckily, College Station, Texas. I went to A&M. College Station, Texas. The only good thing, not the only good thing. College Station is great. The thing that they would sell if you went on a college tour, even right now, to College Station, they're like, "Welcome to A&M. Hope you see Kyle Field, whatever." They will always say every tour I go like, and our movies in College Station are only $5 tickets. That's like their selling point to like move to College Station. Yeah. So I saw, that was nice because I was able to see a bunch of movies that otherwise I would not have, even on a college budget. But it was not as hard of a sell for me to convince like 6 of my friends on a Thursday night to go see the Phantom Menace 3D.
Yeah.
But then here, this, I don't know if this is like super appropriate for this podcast.
Oh, no, it's doing.
But I did get very drunk beforehand because it was college. I was like, we're going to pregame this. I tried to make everyone happy. So I got very drunk. Okay. And so telling drunk stories is whatever, but I sprinted through the halls of the Cinemark. Right. I got my ticket and I just sprinted. And then we were late because we had been pre-gaming. And so then we got the very front row and very middle. So I'm just sitting up there, 3D glasses on.
Trashed.
And then, and then I, I'm watching. And it's a long time ago, Galaxy Far, Far Away. And then it goes, Star Wars. And I go, Star Wars. And I pass out. And then I wake up. And boss ass is like, peace. That's it.
No way.
That was my experience with Phantom Menace 3D. Do I wish I had seen it in 3D for real? Yes. But it's a funny story to think back on. So
I love it. You saw it in 4D. You saw it.
Yeah.
You saw it. Whole different dimension of dog. That is so awesome because my story. I saw it with my grandpa, and my dad. It's not even that crazy, but the fact that you had that's so specific. And the only movie I've seen where I'm pretty trashed was I went and saw Jurassic Park over the summer, where like theaters had just opened up. No one was going back to them. And me and my friends like, we're gonna get destroyed before we go see Jurassic Park. And I'm like, yes, the whole time. It's just so sick. Oh man,
that movie. I mean, it is derailing. That movie is the best movie to see on the big screen, period. And because I was again in college, they re-released Jurassic Park 3D during that time.
Wow.
And I was in charge of like a freshman orientation camp. So I took these kids that had never seen Jurassic Park to Jurassic Park. And I was like, we're gonna watch this. And they were all jumping and screaming. Yeah. And I was like, this is like, it still works. It's still like one of the best movies of all time.
It really is.
So really,
it really is. And I don't know, you talk about the Phantom Menace, and one person must be mentioned when you bring up the Phantom Menace. Let me get this pulled up right here. Oh my God. The legendary. Oh my God. And funny enough, I got a photo with you and him on there. My buddy Eric, John, and Wes, I put their photo on there because they were so proud of that moment. They all signed the badge, they got their badges signed by him and stuff. But what was it like meeting Doug? Because Doug is like the one you watch at the beginning, and he's such a genius. You're like, I love this guy. What was that like, dude?
So it was, I lugged a bunch of books to Celebration to get signed, and mostly Delray, right? Because I know that they do a great job of like, hey, here's Isla Dawson, or here's Chrissy Golden, and you can bring your books and they will sign it, which I really enjoy. So I brought a bunch of books, but I also, in my backpack for 4 days at Celebration, had my hardcover copy of Art of Episode 1. In case I ran into him, like literally just in case I ran into Doug Chang. And so then this was after the panel that he did in the corner of the McCormick Center. And it was a packed house, really. I mean, but just like, again, maybe it's like day 3 of that convention. So you're kind of tired and you're just there, and he's just like drawing live for everyone, explaining his process. Incredible. And then they were like, okay, they made an announcement maybe before, right? They were like, hey, and then he will be signing and meeting people after the panel. And so I was with my producer. I was like, hey, what if we just like left literally 5 minutes before the panel ended? So we were just like the first person in line, so we wouldn't have to wait. And so we did it. And so here, this is not good podcasting. I've never stood up during a podcast, but can I go grab something from the other room?
Yes, no, I'm completely fine with that. I'll fill in. So
Doug, ramp, do something.
I got you. Doug for me, okay? Doug was one of those ones, and he taught me something that I never knew I needed to hear. If you don't know what it is in 5 seconds, okay, that was his rule, then it's not good design. And I've literally, when it comes to like anything, not even anything I design, but anything I really enjoy, like if I see a toy out there and it's not even Star Wars related, if I see something, if I can't figure out in 5 seconds what it is, then it's not good. Okay, this could be for anything. This could be real life vehicles. But Brandon's back. Let's see what Brandon's got for us. I'm very excited to see this.
So here's why I left 5 minutes early. Not only because Doug Chang is Doug Chang and the best and a genius and on the level of Ralph McQuarrie of what he has contributed to not only the prequels but now the sequels. But so we're talking a lot about conventions. We're talking a lot about meeting whatever. So part of this obsession that I had growing up and even now also obviously revolves around autographs, right? And kind of like getting something tangible from someone that I admired, especially when I was 10 years old, was a really big deal. And so very early on, there were all these forums for Star Wars that were like, hey, here's the address of this person. Here's the address of this person. If you write them a letter, they will respond to you. They will sign whatever you send them. And so that was like a really big part of my childhood. And even like me and my little brothers would do it even after that. I would help them like with NBA players and with whatever. But with me and Star Wars, I sent stuff to Ben Burt. I sent, and they would always respond back a really nice thing. And so then I was able to thank Doug Chang for responding to my fan mail when I was 11 years old. So this is what came in the widescreen.
Yes,
VHS.
I have mine
right
here. I literally
this is a perfect thing to put into a manila folder, right? You can't send a book, but you can send this.
No, it's perfect.
Right. So then here's what he did. Not only did he respond, was like, good job, Brandon, or whatever. he sketched a battle droid.
Yes.
In there, right? Isn't that fucking? Isn't that freaking crazy,
dude? Look at that. That's amazing. And it took him 2 seconds, which is the best part.
But I mean, like, imagine like being 11-year-old Brandon being like,
imagine being 28-year-old Brandon.
Right,
like,
yeah.
what? That's
so I was able to thank him for that and tell him, which he was very kind about it. But
sure.
But it was really cool to meet him and get that really nice picture too.
Oh, dude, he's a legend. And like that panel stuck with me, and it will stick with me for the rest of my life, just from what he said and like how George did things back then. I think it's such a great photo. And you've got your Luminous Being shirt on. It's just like, I love that. That embodies Celebration because it's just a quick thing. It's done. You talk to him for a second, it's over. And that's what I love about Celebration. And that's what I love about this whole moment right here is just fantastic. Your next one up. Okay, this one's great right here. I love this because you included a GIF. All right.
Yeah.
Can't beat that. Brandon, Gavin, how you pronounce his last name? You're better at this than I am.
I think it's Bouquet because that's what I said on the show. Yeah.
So with Gavin, he is like an unsung hero. Like he's not really in the beginning documentary to my knowledge, right? Or not a lot. Whereas other people really are.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell me about that.
So he is one of the people that I associate with Star Wars because of the making of book and the art book. And then also the Insider really does a great job of interviewing him maybe twice. And then Rick McCallum used to do a each issue, a prequel update. And oftentimes it would be referring to what Gavin was doing because they would travel the world together, location scouting for all these different, Naboo or whatever it was. So that's how I knew his name. But even again, you go back and you read the Making of Phantom Menace, because how I kind of just try to figure out like who do I want to talk to. You literally open the Making of Phantom Menace and it's like Gavin. So and so I reached out, and he had just finished working on the new Dark Crystal TV show. Which is incredible. And he has done so many things like that. Like he's really turned himself into creating fantastical worlds. He did like Miss Peregrine. He did Warcraft. He's done all these things that even if the movie wasn't as successful, you can't be like, oh, the art direction was terrible. So he's really like still very, very, very accomplished. But when I talked to him, he had not done a Star Wars interview in probably a decade. And so it was really cool to talk to him. And then he had just finished rewatching them for the first time in a decade because his kids are now 10 years old. And he was like, let's watch them. And they loved it. And so he really enjoyed talking about it. And actually I'm talking to him again soon enough. So
nice.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens there.
Good little plug there. That's right, great, dude. And one thing I will say too is I just got that book in here, the Star Wars, the Making of Episode 1, The Phantom Menace.
Yeah.
This book is beautiful. I have not had a chance to flip through all of it yet, and I'm gonna probably read it. I'm a teacher. I don't know if you know that, but I usually have my Thanksgivings off, so I really have big intentions of actually going through this book and kind of just learning more about it, because it's a pretty impressive book from just from looking at it. And I don't know.
And there's part of me that, again, with the making of the prequel trilogy books that we've gotten, there's part of me that's like, yes, those were great because I grew up with them, and there's really great information in there. And there's part of me that's like, I really just want like a Rinsler quality, big making of Phantom Menace, like that would be incredible.
Oh, well, I mean, the
archives. I know.
Yep. Did you order it? I'm
excited. I ordered it, and I like he announced it. Paul Duncan announced it. He was like, "Hey, FYI, like this is on sale right now." Yeah. And literally within 30 seconds, I spent $200 on it or whatever it was.
Yeah, no, it's 200.
And I'm like, where is it? Like, I know I was the first person to order. Like, you know what I mean? Like, where is it? Because all the people in the UK are getting it. Yeah. And then he said, like, oh, like American warehouses are getting it right now. It should be shipped out. And I'm like, just like waiting, because I have the first archives book right here, and it's great. It's a little too heavy to read, but I mean, the differentiator, if anyone's on the fence or whatever, the differentiator is that he re-interviews George Lucas. It's not just like old archival stuff.
Which is great.
It's him doing new interviews. So like the original archives book is incredible because it's like George Lucas for the first time I've heard talking about the holiday special and the Ewok movies, because he asks him. And this is the same way of him asking about the sequels, him asking about the special editions, and then him asking about the prequels. So I'm very excited to get my hands on it and just like devour it. I'm hoping it's going to be like what you're saying during this break, so I can just like sit down for
through
a
it.
day and just go through it. So I'm excited.
I love that because that was one of those books that I was like, I told my girlfriend, like, look, if you want to get me the best Christmas gift this year, it would 100% be that. And then, of course, she's like, it's too much. And I'm like, all right, well, I asked my mom to do it too. And she's like, I am not splitting the gift thing. I'm not doing that. That's just like, no, you can't do that. I want to take the glory for it. But yeah, man, that is so fantastic. I let me know how it is the second you go.
Oh yeah, I can't wait. I'm sure it's gonna be great. And I've heard only good things. So
the only expensive book I have in my collection is the Ralph McQuarrie one. The big the 2 volumes.
Incredible. Yeah. It's
oh man,
and that one is my girlfriend, my fiance got that for me for Christmas last year because this is my tip to you, Scotty.
Here we go.
Which is I have a list on Amazon that is just everything, and it's called "So You Want to Buy Brandon a Gift." And
yes,
I sent it to my in-laws, and they were like, "Really, Brandon just wants books?" And I'm like, "Oh my god, just like yes, it's fine. Like that's it. I promise you. Like I will be so happy." But what it does, you can set up notifications that tell you when the things in your list have gone on sale, right, or that are like severely discounted, even if it's for just like 20 minutes or something, right?
Oh,
so there was a period with that Ralph McQuarrie book where it was like $85 or something, and I was like, so I just sent it to Maggie. I was like, Maggie, like. Just do it right now. Like, here you go. This is your chance. So that's my recommendation if you're ever like looking for something. And then of course eBay is great if you can kind of see what's going on. But
you got me. You were the reason I bought the Rise of Skywalker art of book because it went down for like $18.
Oh yeah, no, I saw that. I was like, yes, I want to buy this.
Whoo, in a heartbeat. And Phil Stozak retweeted. I was like, yeah, as fast as I could. I went and bought it and it was so mindless. Like I had like, I don't know when that was. Was that like 5 or so months ago?
Yeah,
I don't think I had that much money in my bank account.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, dude. I was like, I have to buy it. There's no mindless. There's no control over me right now. Yeah, no, I love that. So that is a good tip. I'm not kidding. Once this is done, I'm going to do that tonight.
Make your little list, and it doesn't have to just be Star Wars, obviously, because I have a bunch of random Tolkien books or random there's like an Akira box set that's always like $200, but every so often it'll be like again $80. I'm like, all right, like I'm ready. As soon as it happens, I'm ready. I gave this tip. I was on Sky Talkers, and I said this tip as well.
Yeah,
because we're talking about very expensive books, and I really, like I'm very lucky where I'm able to like save a bunch of money and then spend some of it on the things that we're talking about.
Sure.
I will say we keep talking about the Rinsler books, especially the Making of Star Wars, Making of Empire, Making of Jedi, which are the 3, like if you need a Star Wars book in your collection, that are those 3. Mm-hmm. And they're expensive and they're kind of out of print, some of them, or like you can only get like paperbacks or whatever it is. The digital Kindle versions of the 3 of those books are $7 right now because they're just like heavily discounted. And then they will get discounted to $2 every so often. So just keep a lookout for that. And it's nice having these books and nice having them on the shelf or whatever. But if you have an iPad or you have a Kindle, you have whatever, they are incredible because they're not only just the book and the good writing and the good research and whatever the pictures, but the digital editions have additional content that is nowhere else that Rinsler did specifically for the digital books, which are the actual videos of the interviews and deleted scenes and audio clips that are all interactive when you're reading it. And again, $7. And if you have an iPad, just spend the $23 and have them with you all the time when you're on a plane or wherever. Oh, and it is the best resource in the entire world.
Now I'm buying more things.
What else? What else can I get you to buy? Yeah, no.
This is bad.
But it goes back to what we're saying. It's important to separate like spending a ton of money to be a great Star Wars fan, because I look at people's collections, I'm like, what? Like that's incredible. I wish I could do this.
Yeah, collection aspect.
Mm-hmm. But it's being a Star Wars fan the best way you can, but also knowing like, okay, let me like not game the system, but be very strategic about what I'm going to get. And like, I don't buy as many action figures as I might want to, right? Because I'm like, if I buy 5 action figures, I can also just buy 1 book or whatever it is, So that's kind of, anyway, everyone has their own passions. Everyone has their own collecting habits, but that's kind of what I've tried to do, at least.
It's great. And I don't know. I think this next person we're going to bring up kind of plays more to your nature. The reason I say that is because, simply because the fact that he, and you know the story, he went through the phone book when him and his dad were at a convention and or his dad was at some sort of convention. I forget what it was, and he went to ILM just because he could. Yeah. And that person right here, I'm gonna get it pulled up, is the one and only John Knoll, who we've both had the opportunity to meet.
I love it.
Your situation maybe a little bit more different than mine, but if you don't mind me telling my story, my story is super brief. We were going into Doug Chang, me, my friend Eric and his crew. Jerry was with me, and my girlfriend Katie was with me. Maybe Jerry wasn't with me. All I remember vividly was Eric looks and goes, "Oh, dude," taps his friend John and goes, "That's John Knoll." And I kid you not. And now I'm really bad about this because I've met a good bit of celebrities this way. Just a whole different Scott comes into being. My brain goes into like the whole different realm of existence. And I walk right up to him like, "Love this, love this. Is there any way I can get a selfie?" And I snapped my photo as quick as possible. And as we're walking in, I put my phone in my pocket and I looked at him in the eyes and said, and we're like walking side by side. And I said, "That one scene in Rogue One, the Star Destroyer, the other one in half." I said, "That is the most incredible thing I've seen in my entire life." And he goes, "Thank you. We put a lot of effort into doing that one." And I remember walking away being like, "What? Why did I do that?" And it was a great interaction. Now for you, okay? It's a very similar styled selfie. It feels like, it's like kind of hastily done. So what was that like for you, Brandon? What's your little story about that?
Yeah. So this, and then there'll be another picture, I think, later on in the slideshow. I'm so grateful and blessed I was able to do that and was in the situation where it all like kind of made sense for me financially and with work and whatever. But the Academy, there's a Blast Points Facebook group that I really enjoy. And someone in that group was like, "Hey, FYI, like there is like an Academy panel about Star Wars. Tickets are only $10. But like it has a crazy guest list if anyone's interested." And he sent us like the private link and I bought it without thinking.
Of course.
And then I like bought it and I was kind of like at work and I looked at it and I was like, "Oh, this is like a Thursday in Los Angeles in a month. And I live in Texas. Why did I do this?" But the list was Marshall Lucas, Ben Burt, John Knoll, Dennis Mirren, John Dykstra,
holy cow,
Richard Edlund. It was literally it was every single person that had won an Academy Award for Star Wars talking in a panel at the Academy about it because they had donated the Dykstraflex to the Academy Museum, and so they were doing a big thing.
Oh my god!
So I was like, okay, let me now that I've had this ticket, because then it sold out literally within like 30 seconds, right?
No,
and I have this ticket, and I'm like, I was like, what? And so I go to my boss, and I'm like, "Hey, I will be taking a day off work in a month. It will be a Thursday, but I will be back Friday, and I will be there Wednesday." He's like, "Okay." And so then I use my credit card points.
Yeah.
And I wake up at 4 a.m., fly to Los Angeles.
No way.
Mess around. Because of the job that I had at that time, I had like meetings at the Academy. I reached out to them. I was like, "I'll be here." And so we had meetings about whatever. So that was really cool. And then I just worked at the Academy the rest of the day.
Oh my.
And then there was this panel. And this panel was incredible. It's the first time Marshall Lucas had talked in person about Star Wars in 30 years.
Yeah.
And she was being interviewed by Ben Burt, which we'll see in a second.
Is there any footage of that you can
There's footage. I actually might have gotten archived. Luckily for you, though.
Oh.
I did record the audio. Every so often, my show is very one-on-one interview.
Sure.
Specific. Every so often, I'll push myself. I did an Empire 40 audio documentary with all the interviews that I had done with people that worked on Empire, and I put that together.
Oh, that was great.
If you go back a little bit further, it's called Galactic Innovations. And so I did kind of like a travel log of like, okay, here's like me getting on a plane, and here's me like in the airport, and here's me like getting there, and here, whatever. And then that has the audio of the event.
Oh, yes.
So you can listen to that. But it was truly incredible. And like, I was like crying the entire time. I was like third row, and like, it was just like the craziest thing. But then afterwards, everyone kind of leaves, and I just kind of go up to the stage and just take a bunch of pictures with. And so I sent you the Ben Burt, and I sent you the John Knoll. Mickey Herman was there, who was a previous guest of mine, who used to be George Lucas's secretary, and then she became the producers of Ewoks and Droids and the holiday special. And so we met briefly, and I was able to thank her for coming on the show. And then Gareth Edwards was there, so I got a nice picture with Gareth Edwards and got to talk to him for a while, because no one was like talking to Gareth Edwards apparently. And so yeah, it was a really crazy night. That I'm just like still in shock that I like was as like confident that I did that. You know, like that's a very what's the word? Impulsive move for me.
Yes,
and
definitely.
I was like, look, let's do it, and it all worked out. So anyway, so with John Knoll, very similar to you. I was just like, what am I gonna say to John Knoll?
Yeah.
While we're taking the selfie, and I was like, oh, like I grew a goatee because I saw you grow a goatee in the beginning. Okay, bye. And he was like, okay. So that was cool. That was good. And then yes, I have a feeling that's why I have not gotten a return email about him coming on the show, but we'll see one day. We'll see what happens.
I love that. That reminds me of, and I'm sure you've heard it on Blast Points, I think it's Gabe's story, maybe, where he was working at Barnes and Noble's.
Yeah.
And, it's incredible. And he's like looking down the aisle, and it's John Knoll flipping through like a cooking book, and it's just so incredible. And I imagine, John Knoll probably has this happen a lot, and not just because of Star Wars, but because of Jurassic Park and because of Pirates of the Caribbean and because of, Photoshop. I'm like, honestly, my aunt, when I sent her the photo of me and John Knoll, and I said, I met John Knoll today. He worked on the prequels, and she's like, he made Photoshop. And I'm like, yeah, right. Like you forget he's done so much that he's like he's a literal wizard. We talk about Dennis Muren and Phil Tippett and John Dykstra as being wizards, but he is the next, like he is that level, right? I don't know. I love John Knoll. I'm obsessed with him. I love John Knoll too. He's so chill. He's just like, there's something to him. But anyway, I'm sorry. John Knoll he'll get a whole episode one day, and I'll bring you back on to that. All right. Now this one is a legit legend because of what he did for the Phantom Menace. Obviously, he did so much for the editing of it. But tell us about Ben Burt, okay? Because I don't know, you haven't had a one-on-one with him yet, have you?
Not yet, and we've gotten close. It will happen eventually. We've gotten contact. That's all I'll say. We're close. We're closer than we've ever been, and it will happen one day. And I really cannot wait. Yes. But Ben Burt, again, one of those people that shows up in every single documentary, no matter which time period you're watching, no matter what you're very hyper aware of who Ben Burt is. And so Ben Burt, just like that Doug Chang I showed you, I should have pulled that too. I sent him a little book, and he signed that when I was 11 years old. And then with Ben Burt, I used to do. I've said this before, so I haven't gotten in trouble yet, so I'll say it here. You used to be able to, like John Knoll in the phone book, but the Skywalker Sound phone number is accessible. You can find it. And so especially back then, it's 2001 or whatever, you call Skywalker Sound, and I'm like, yeah, may I please speak to Ben Burt? And then you get Ben Burt's voicemail, or you get Ben Burt, and you're just like, hello, is this Ben? He's like, yep. And I'm like, okay. No way. So yeah, I did that a few times, and then I was like, I should have something to say, and I was like, I had nothing to say as a 10-year-old or whatever. So, of course. Yeah, love Ben Burt, and then this was incredible, obviously, to get to meet him, however briefly.
He's got such an iconic voice, though. I couldn't imagine hearing that over the phone. And when you get the chance to talk to him, you have to bring that up. You know that, right? Like that has to happen.
Yeah, both him and Doug Chang. I'm like, FYI, like I did do this when I was 10, and you're partially responsible for the reason that I'm still like doing this. So they'll know. They'll be aware.
I just love how special it is, because people don't realize how incredible he is in terms of the sound design of Star Wars. But then you get to the prequels, and a lot of it looks the way it does because of his genius in editing. And he, like he says in the documentary, George's favorite part is the editing room, because that's when he actually directs the movie. Right. And that line's always stuck with me, because people forget post-production is as important as production and pre-production. It so much hangs in post-production. I don't know. I forget that Ben Burt, even edits the movies, only because he just has such a huge role over everything. He's like an umbrella of just nothing but Star Wars creating. I don't know. I'm looking forward to that interview whenever you can pull that one off. That's
one day. The thing I'll say about Ben Burt and editing, because especially with 2 and 3 was like the really big push for Ben Burt to be the editor of Star Wars, and Lucas really loved how he was able to pull things from different takes, especially when they started moving towards digital filming. But what's interesting to me in 2021, I keep saying it because I'm just like, they just opened pre-orders on Amazon. J.W. Rensler wrote a book about Howard Kazanjian, who was the producer for Return of the Jedi, as well as the Indiana Jones movies. But in order to do that, Howard Kazanjian was like, hey, I would love if you could talk to one of my old contributors, one of the old people I used to work with, because I think she would have a lot to say. Maybe she could do the intro to the book, and maybe she could add some flavor throughout. And he was like, okay, who is it? And he was like, it's Marshall Lucas.
Oh, wow.
And he was like, okay, because even J.W. Rensler, who has written all these books and who has done so much to preserve the history of Star Wars, had never talked to her, obviously, because of everything. And so he was like, yep. So he like sat down for 3 hours with Marshall Lucas. And apparently Marshall Lucas in this book coming out next year talks about not only working with Howard and working on the original trilogy, but also her experiences with the prequels and with the sequels, because she's seen them. And I'm like, like it was like, I was like, oh yeah, Howard Kazanjian, that's gonna be good. And then he said that, and I was like, how do I read this right now? Like, how do I at least read that?
Exactly.
Because of course Marsha editing Star Wars and then helping to edit Empire and Jedi, especially Jedi. It'd be very interesting with her watching, especially the prequel movies with Ben, who she's very good friends with and very close with, and that's who moderated her interview at that panel I was at. Dude. And so I'm very curious about what she thinks about, especially the prequels, when she knows that her friend like someone that she collaborated with so closely early on, then kind of took up that mantle for 3 other movies. So
that's a very surreal thing. I had never put those 2 and 2 together. The fact that she has never stated her things on Star Wars post Return of the Jedi.
Right.
Wow.
It's going to be wild. It's going to be.
I'm excited for that.
It's going to be wild. It's going to be wild. We're talking about Rensler a lot. I don't know if you've seen, he's having health issues right now.
Yeah, I did see that.
And so he's encouraging people to pull and buy his latest fiction book, All Up, because I think he gets the most proceeds from that, which is a very good. I have that too. It's all about the space race, but I feel like we're talking about him so much, I might as well say,
of course,
if you have been influenced by him in any way, as even to a 10% as much as I have, like definitely try to buy his book and do that, because he has done him. It's like him and Phil Shostak are like neck and neck of like how archiving what we all are now, like what we're talking about today, we wouldn't know half of this stuff without all of that. And
oh no,
Lucas has always been so good about it. So
totally. And I don't know, you and I actually, and I don't know how, I won't never forgive this. Whenever he did that live stream, you and I were going back and forth with each other that day because of the fact that like he might say things that, that normally wouldn't be said, because he was on the set for The Force Awakens, and then all of a sudden, mysteriously, it's like, don't put that book out. Don't do this with whatever, all the interviews he had gotten. And like, I'm still to this day, I'm really eager to find out what happened to those things and what's going to come of those interviews, because nothing's better than really good dirt. And one thing I will say is the prequels were not shy of criticism, which is true, but also problematic, productions, which is fine. Yep. Everything is a problematic production. And I think that's the last bit of Star Wars, like, I guess you would say dirt we're going to get under this Disney umbrella, only because, it's just, they want to make sure everything, the image is always perfectly clean, right? But I mean, as of recent stuff, all the directors getting changed with Solo and with even with Trevorrow and all the different creative things, Josh Trank's Boba Fett film, like, it's okay to have dirt, and I'm waiting for the day that they will succumb to that reality, right? Because
I was actually talking to Alden Diaz about this relatively recently, because it's all these things you're saying, right? It's the Lord and Miller Solo cut. It's the Harrison Ford hurting himself on The Force Awakens, so they have to do script rewrites. It's whatever happened with Tross and with Colin Trevorrow, and then also like during production, like what things changed. And all these things, you and I are able to talk about it almost like a language, because we know them, though, is the thing. Like, we know them,
We're hyper
And
aware.
I don't know if they'll ever say it. Like maybe we get a sequel archives book in 20 years and you and I are going to be like, yeah, it's like, I can't believe we finally got this story. But we know, like, I don't know. We know the story. It's fun having that secret language between us, you know? And almost I'm at a point, like we're getting all these things right now with Lucas being re-interviewed for that archives book.
Sure.
And then every clickbait article for every whatever BS website is like, well, here's what Lucas was planning on doing for his sequel trilogy. And I'm like, we knew this.
Yes.
We knew this 10 years ago, 5 years ago. And it feels less special because it's kind of been like content mined. And so for a second, I kind of like just having it, you know, like, I just like, I like kind of all of us knowing it and joking about it.
It's but it's very much to the insane fans, you know, like I couldn't talk about this with anyone, right? There's maybe 3 people I know that would know exactly what I'm talking about. You're one of them. And it's funny because if you read and take in everything, right, you see the dots and you connect the dots. It's very conspiracy theorist, but it's all there. And maybe one day we'll get a chance to explore like the prequel aspect of it again, you know, with like, oh, the pod race and stuff. Oh, there was problems with, you know, Christopher Lee can only be on set for 1 hour of one day, you know, like that stuff's great. That's good deets. But one bonus thing I want to throw in here in the slideshow was some photos from Celebration. Okay. And this photo I posted on Twitter, but funny enough, that one of your tweet, it's you with a Ralph McQuarrie Vader. And by the way, I screenshotted this and I barely knew you then. And it's just funny to think that I was like, yes, screenshot this. It's so sick. But this one over here, we were at the Luminous Beings meetup. And if you can't tell just from the monitor, I'll get it blown up just for a second for our viewers. You can see some incredible content creators all in one image. You've got Rick Villanueva taking a selfie with Lacey Gillerin while everyone's wearing their Luminous Being shirt. You see the back, you see the fade of Brandon's hair.
The clean fade, man. Ready for celebration.
Sick. And it's kind of hard to see, but you also can see, look, I got my arrow on it now. You can see Alden Diaz. Okay. And who is this again, Brandon? You brought her up before we talked on the show.
She's just like a random gambit in a poster community. Yeah.
It's just funny to see. Oh, look, I got my laser pointer now. And like it's just crazy when you think about Celebration. And you've said you've been to 2 of them. I've been to 2 of them as well. But this was the first time I was like really content creating and stuff for it. Or like not really there yet, but like I was trying to get into that part of the community. And like I cannot wait for 2022. I'm like every waking moment. I'm already picking my outfits. It's so sickening. You know, I mean, you get it. It's ridiculous. And thank God we can still talk and hang out till that. But I don't know. That celebration was so spectacular. And were you at the Mandalorian panel, by the way? Because that was one of the ones I want to bring up.
So the Mandalorian panel, and you remember all those big, quote unquote, big ticket panels. I was able to get Phantom Menace and Mandalorian and Galaxy's Edge. I was not able to do the Rise of Skywalker when I had like I was in one of the rooms, not the main room. But with Mandalorian panel, because Doug Chang and John Knoll were both there, right? Just like in the crowd. And all those panels in those mornings at what was the theater called? I forgot, but McCormick
Coliseum. I don't know.
They would not serve coffee. It was cold. I was tired. They would not serve coffee up in the concourse. They would serve beer. They did serve beer.
I remember that. You're right.
And so I would just go up and get 2 and bring them down for me and my producer. And I would do it like 3 times before the panel would start. And so on the 3rd trip up for the Mandalorian panel, I'm walking with my beers. John Knoll passes me in the hallway. And I'm like, John Knoll! He's
no
like,
way.
Hello. And then I just keep walking. I was like, that was enough for me. That was the best case scenario for you know, where I was at that time.
Sure.
But that was my other. So I was primed for then the further follow up that we already discussed. But that was
totally
interesting time in my life for sure.
That one panel though is what kind of how I want to tie all this together, right? You know, we had been talking about all the prequel creators and stuff, and you know, I mean, I have a bunch of them listed right here, and there's some we can kind of talk about just for a second. You know, I think the most important one to me, and you know how obsessed I am, and he's right above my head right now. I actually just bought a signed photo of him. Oh, nice, is Rick McCallum, and Brandon, I don't know why. I watch anything with him, and he screams Hollywood. Okay,
yeah.
And he's just like, he's got a shark look, but he himself is not a shark, right? You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like not a shark. I don't mean like a chomp shark. I mean like a Hollywood shark. You know what I mean? He's got like he's got a very like big, he's like, you know, George, like he doesn't seem real. Like Rick McCallum is this whole different dimension of human being that I'm still not fully aware of yet. And like, he is the so different than George. George is like, oh, well, we're going to do this picture. And you've got Rick who's like, we're going to fucking do this and fucking do that. And you're going to fucking like, I love that. You don't see that anymore in Hollywood. I'm like gay. I'm like just in love. I'll show it to you. Hold on. I got to take it down. I'm just in love with this. He did like one Star Wars weekend. And you probably saw this on eBay too.
Oh, nice.
Like, he's just a legend. He's just a legend.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Do you like him too?
Yeah, I love him. I actually just bought my own Rick McCallum autograph because he was a guest. Again, like he's very rarely like an autograph guest anyway.
Yeah.
The only other time besides Star Wars weekends, he was at Celebration Japan. And I got a signed Rick McCallum Celebration Japan print that I bought over quarantine. That was like when I was like, why did I do this? But I feel good.
He doesn't do it often. And apparently, you know, another one is Natalie Portman. She like she's only signed like 4 or 5 Star Wars items, which is
only but then I tweeted it.
I think you were the one that taught me that subconsciously.
Let me see.
You got her kids book or something.
Yeah. So then one of my listeners DM'd me. He was like, hey, do you have a Natalie Portman autograph? I was like, no, I don't. And he was like, call this New York bookstore right now. It was like 9:00 at night. And he was like, they are selling her book for $20. And she went in and signed them all.
What?
And so yeah, there we go. Natalie Portman signed book. And look how good like that spacing is. So I'm going to probably cut it as like a 3x5 index and then frame it with a photo.
Yeah.
So that's the plan.
That's genius.
Yes. So anyway, there's Natalie Portman.
Well, no, it really plays into it because, like you said, Rick doesn't do it often, you know. And I've tried my best to reach out, and I'm sure you have as well.
We've all found the email. We've all found the website and the email.
It's he's not unobtainable, I don't think. But like the only video I've seen, okay, it's a recent video, and I love it. Okay, and I'm sure you saw it too. It's like they're in Prague, him and this young guy. I don't know where they're from, but he drives in a car to go meet him. And Rick, he's hitting a vape like half the time. And so in my brain, I'm like, dude, I can just picture Rick McCallum drinking his coffee all aggressive and smoking cigarettes like a beast. And like something about like, I want to cosplay as Rick McCallum. Like I want to gain like 100 more pounds. Just be like,
and just be ready for Rick.
Just be like a beast of a man. I don't know. I just can't stop looking at him. I don't know what it is. Why, Brandon? Have you figured it out yet?
I think it was more. It's funny. Like you were saying earlier, the juxtaposition of Rick and George that we see so often through the prequels, because for all of his abrasiveness, right? And like you can hear stories of like they're like, oh yeah, I saw Rick McCallum, you know, and he yelled at everyone and like he was mean, you know, and everyone would be scared to go to his office, blah blah blah. But then on the flip side of that, you have the Rick McCallum that was hyper aware of the fans. Again, we go back to the insiders, and every single insider, there's a prequel up to at the very beginning from Rick McCallum saying, here's what we're doing, here's what we're shooting, here's what's going on.
Yeah.
And he was very cognizant of making sure the fans knew what was going on, which I appreciate more than anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then, because then I've known my fair share of Hollywood producers, and they are all the same. And so part of me adheres that to him because I'm like, oh, he had to do that kind of persona in order to make it work, while also working with George Lucas, who's the most like anti-Hollywood person there is. And they were able to work together and make it actually work. Because if it was just George Lucas trying to make the prequels, it would not have happened.
No, it wouldn't have
Rick
happened.
McCallum was like, he's like Spider-Man and Spider-Man 2, like holding on to everything as much as he can, which is great. And so one day he'll yell at me on a Zoom call or something, or send me an email saying, please stop emailing me once a month. I swear to God. And I will, as soon as I will put that screenshot on Facebook, I will put a frame right behind me. It's going to be, it's going to be great. So.
You're gonna send it to his home address and have him sign it. Like just go.
No, that's a good idea too. Like put the postage on for Prague, like $40 worth of stamps.
Oh my God! Well, and it's a really important thing to say, and I don't think people realize this enough. And maybe it's something that most fans aren't attuned to. But the most pure version of George's Star Wars, okay, the most unedited, the most like real it's ever been, was to me The Phantom Menace, only because Rick was like, yeah, we got to do this. This is what George Lucas wants. Fox wasn't like, let me, puppeteer you and make you think you need this. It's just an independent film. It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah. And the one thing I love about Rick, as well as you have some other people on this list that we're about to go through, like David Tattersall, like Gavin Bouquet, the people, and Trisha Bigger as well, people that worked with George on Young Indy leading up to the production of the prequels. They all kind of formed this core unit of being able to shoot Young Indy. They were shooting an episode a week, and then they would change countries once a month, right? So they were shooting like movie quality TV show episodes at a breakneck pace. And what the purpose of it was, not that George was like, yes, I really want to tell this story. There was partially that, but he really wanted to make sure that his teams were ready for the prequels. And Rick was a huge catalyst of Young Indy. And then Rick, especially cultivating that talent that we're about to discuss even more, I think is even more important in terms of his legacy for the prequels.
Oh, heck yeah, dude. Totally. And as the list goes on, I mean, Rick, like you said, kind of brought it all together. And people don't realize it, but the special editions wouldn't have happened without Rick, right? The special editions interviews have Rick half the time. And if you look at the credits, it's like produced by Gary Kurtz. Then right below it's like produced by Rick McCallum. And you're like, that's mind-blowing that George, trusted him that much to do that. And it was because of Young Indy. And I've seen a handful of my Young Indy episodes, and they are incredible. Like
they're fun, man.
Just the production of it's unthinkable. Like the amount of extras on some episodes were just insane. Man.
It is very reminiscent, because again, we can talk later about Rick then wanting to do Star Wars TV with 1313.
Oh,
it's very reminiscent of the scope that they wanted to capture with Young Indy, that then they wanted to capture with 1313, but then that they are now actually capturing with Mandalorian. Yes. And we talk about Star Wars TV, but the legacy of Star Wars TV is George Lucas and Rick McCallum, and we're seeing it realized with Mando. And because we've seen those photos of George on set, and the Baby Yoda one like sent me into shock.
Oh, every time.
I would love Rick McCallum to go to the volume and be like, yes, they're doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it would be so cool. So
I'm telling you, on the phone with my friend Eric, he was going to come and join us for a second, but he had other plans. We talk literally maybe every other day just about Star Wars stuff. And the one thing I said is, if we're watching the Kenobi series and it says executive produced by Rick McCallum, I would absolutely lose my mind. And like, I'd already be losing because of the show, but if that name just showed up on there, because I mean, the infamous Ewan, dude, dog, Ewan, like when he's on the phone with them, we're so happy to have you on. Me, Liam's happy. I mean, it's absolutely fantastic. Like, it's just something about that man. Oh my God. And yeah, he would love the volume. He would be obsessed with the volume.
He'd be obsessed.
Just like George was. In that one shot of the gallery, he has hands in his pockets. He's like, wow, look at that. Like, I am.
You did it. It was great. Yeah.
I can't wait, because something in me, and I'm not getting my hopes up. I'm not. But something in me says George would come back to do maybe just one thing because of the technology. But I'm trying.
Someone made a joke on Twitter. They were like, "What director do you want for season finale, Mando season 2?" I was like, George Lucas, baby. Like, can you imagine if they were just like, "Yeah, here you go, man. Like, do it." Like, it'd be anyway. That's like my, I don't know. Like I love everything, and I'm not going to be like, oh, I can't believe they didn't put the Anakin ghost in Tross and ruin Tross or whatever. But if that ever happened in any way, or even just like story by George Lucas or whatever it was, he had an idea for an episode. Even like when they were like, oh, what's his name? Woves Fox or something.
Yes.
The name. Yep. I'm like, this is great. Good job, people.
It's amazing.
Love it. Keep it going. Keep
like
doing
when
things.
George did the hanger thing in Solo.
In Solo, great.
How perfect is that? That's perfect Han. Yeah. That's perfect George. It's just like the. Yeah. I could talk about that forever.
What I'll say, and I say it on whenever this comes up. If you want to see George Lucas movies that are being created in 2020, the year of our Lord 2020, then you need to follow Melody Hobson on Instagram. Okay. Melody Hobson is George Lucas's wife. Melody Hobson is very active on Instagram.
Oh, I did not know
compared
that.
To George. Yeah, very active.
Oh.
It's just a normal. She's very, very successful, very, very smart, has a whole career before George and after George and what she's doing now.
Oh, definitely.
But every so often, she will post a video of her at her house, especially during quarantine, working out or gardening or just hanging out. And you're like, there's no one else at this house. These are just George Lucas Instagram boyfriend videos. This is technically George Lucas directing a movie. I will enjoy it for what it is. So that's all I'll say.
Dude, mind-blowing. I didn't even think about that. There's one shot in the gallery too that I love. It's whenever they talk about, Favreau and George, like, well, you wrote it. Some of the holiday special. He goes,
he's like, I don't know.
But you'll know this because we're both obsessed with. George is like leaning back like this, and his iPhone's in his pocket. And I'm like, in my brain, every time I see that picture, I go, George has totally been like, how the hell, like, why can't I like he has to have those boomer moments, right? He has to have those.
What apps does George Lucas have on his phone? Someone asked me, like, do you want George Lucas on the show? And I was like, of course. But I wouldn't. There's nothing to ask George Lucas anymore. No. The things I'm curious about with George is what he's doing now, what he's enjoying now, what he's experiencing, and the content he's consuming, right? What shows, what movies speak to him. Like he was on the Game of Thrones set because he was enjoying Game of Thrones. I remember him talking about Rome, HBO being a big inspiration for him. And then even there was a Melody Hobson interview at the beginning of quarantine about like, how are you surviving quarantine? And she was like, oh, my husband every night's making us watch an action movie. Like tonight's Air Force One. And I'm like, wow, your husband's George Lucas and he's making you watch Air Force One. Like, what else are you guys watching? Where's your letterbox, Melody Hobson? Like, let's figure this out. So,
dude, and funny enough, you bring up a great thing that I often think about, and you've seen it. I mean, I've sent you the video of the ridiculous like smash hyper wild cut I made of just like all those just George Lucas interviews going array, and like the best is I'm just gonna make short films for my friends. You're never gonna see them. That whole section makes me laugh each time because it's the same cadence. He says it almost to be condescending. Like 2015 to 2020 George Lucas might be the best aesthetic of George Lucas. He does not give a single shit, at all. And I would love for him to come on Talking Bane, like just talk about like, well, I really don't like streaming services. There's way too many of them. I would love.
That's all. I just need to sit down with him and just like talk about comics or something or whatever he's reading. Like, who cares? Because like we know all the stories, but he's not going to say anything new or interesting.
No.
So just shoot the shit with him for 30 minutes and then call it an episode and be like, all right, we got it. So.
It's so ideal. Well, the people that help aid George Lucas do these prequels were huge ones, and I'm just going to read off the list. If there's anyone in particular you want to bring up, Brandon, by all means, don't stop me. We already kind of went through Ben Burt, Matthew Wood, McCallum, Knoll, Rob Coleman. Okay, Rob Coleman is the unsung hero for everything like Jar Jar, and like he was huge in the involvement of making Jar Jar, and like people don't realize when they say animation director, people's mind goes to Bugs Bunny or even like Clone Wars, but he had to talk about like how the mouth moved for Watto and how his wings moved in the Battle of Naboo. Like he was really in charge of all that. And have you spoke to Rob Coleman yet or no?
No, I have not. Okay. I mean, I have via email. But Brian Balance has actually a really great interview with him relatively recent, maybe 6 months ago, that I recommend if anyone wants to listen to more about Rob Coleman. One of Rob Coleman's greatest contributions to the saga is Yoda and the digital Yoda in episodes 2 and 3.
You're right.
And so that's very well chronicled in From Puppets to Pixels, which is the documentary on episode 2. Which is not as feature length as the beginning, I don't think, but it still tells a really, really cool story of them kind of elevating their game. So yeah, Rob Coleman to me is like, he's the man. And then he's in Australia now, heading his own animation company, and they're the ones that do the Lego movies as well amazing. As like Peter Rabbit and stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, really, I mean, very incredible guy, and has contributed so much to not just Star Wars, but to
he's got a very memorable face too. And I was before we got on tonight, I was watching Revenge of the Sith's documentary. Or I guess there's several documentaries that I think someone put on YouTube as the one big thing, and he talked about Grievous and stuff for a while. And I'm just like, yeah, that's an incredible thing to have to be in charge of, you know? And like, I don't know, people don't realize like when you watch the dailies and stuff, or what that even means, right? And like that's where a lot of make or break happens, and
right.
All these people on the list are all there for it. David Tattersall, like,
yeah,
I didn't realize how important he was, but the reason the prequels looks the way it does, in terms of how it's shot, the camera movements, even the stationary shots, like they all look that way because of this man, and that's a name that has gotten more familiar, I guess, over the past like 2 or 3 years for me. But that is a very important dude, like a very important dude.
Yeah. And again, him and Gavin Bouquet and Trisha Bigger all working together on Young Indy, familiarizing each other. Because when I was interviewing Gavin, there was a big conversation about how important it was for him and Trisha, especially, to work seamlessly. Because, for instance, there's a scene that he brings up in our interview where the first time Amidala's in the like private Senate chambers with the red walls. He had not coordinated with Trisha to make sure the handmaidens' outfits were also not crimson red. And then David Tattersall had to like shoot it in a way that made it feel purposeful. And so then what they came out with, and George was like, oh, that looks really great, was the handmaidens were there to blend in. Right. And that could be a huge mistake in any other movie, right? You want your costumes to not be falling back in the frame, but all of them working together because of their 3-4 years of experience in very, very tough conditions is really cool to kind of think about as that progresses throughout all these movies.
That's true. And you know, you could see it in their face too. If you're watching the Revenge of the Sith behind the scenes, like they almost have a look of relief, you know, afterwards, you know, not that it was a bad experience, just like we did it. Like we did all 3 of these movies. And, you know, like especially David Tattersall, like he was doing shots, I think personally, that were not appreciated obviously at the time, but now, like, you know, I look at some of the stuff he was doing then, and it's just like so reminiscent of how movies are shot now. It's just,
right.
I don't know, like you watch the Lord of the Rings movies now and you think the same exact thing. Like these movies are going to be timeless for this reason, you know? Like you watch A New Hope and you're like, okay, that looks like it's from 77. But like Empire looks timeless. Return of the Jedi looks timeless. I don't know. I think the prequels in 50 years from now are going to be looked back on as like this pinpoint in what came before it and what came after it, you know? And it's a pretty impressive thing to have that under your belt. Of course, John Williams. I mean, what else can you say? Duel of the Fates. I mean, you name it. I mean, all these great things. Robin Gerland. Okay, I did not realize one of the other unsung heroes. I mean, you watch her when she's doing the thing with Jake Lloyd, and that's a great moment where George is watching with the art department that interview, that I guess that scene between Natalie Portman and Jake Lloyd, and like she did that. Like she found Ewan McGregor. Like what? Like. And her influence is still meant to today. I mean, like we got Kenobi coming out in what, a year and a half? So like she did that perfect. I don't know. I don't know if I've ever seen anything else with her in terms of like interviews. Has she ever done anything or no?
No. And I have tried. Because she is, again, one of those unsung heroes. Even if you think about them, the Hayden Christensen casting and that process as well, it brings someone new into a cast that was pretty already well defined. The amount that she kind of went through to make this all happen. Really, people loved to crap on the casting for the
Of course.
prequels.
I don't know why.
But those people are idiots.
Yes.
Whatever. Like, it doesn't. Who cares? Like, those people, they don't like Star Wars, so they can screw off.
Exactly. And like, to me, I guess personally, I mean, I have no say in this game because I didn't make any of these, but like the role of casting is so important. And like, you can see like the Marvel films obviously took a really big, thing, I think, from Star Wars in the sense of like, once you got one person, stick to that one person. And like, I don't think there was any recast, honestly.
Terrence Howard and Don Cheadle.
Okay. No. I mean, in the sense of prequels. Like, I don't.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'm not to my knowledge. I know they had in the deleted scenes with Bail Organa or whatever the heck that was.
Yeah.
Like, right. But it didn't make it to the cut. Like, people don't realize how much goes into making a certain movie, and when they shit on it, it's like, I don't get it. I understood being upset about a story, but to say the movie's garbage is just blasphemy because you've got 1,000+ people working on something. It's a piece of art for that reason. I don't know. Drives me nuts. But of course, Nick Gillard. I mean, come on. I mean, so much has been said about him already.
Incredible. And he was one of my first interviews on the show, maybe episode like 13, 14. And that was very early on still, and I was mostly interviewing people that were like, oh, I am the actor that was in Jabba's Palace here, or whatever it was, which were awesome for me. And then with Nick Gillard, I was like, oh, like, here we are, And so he, incredible, nice man, wonderful, very, very busy still, doing stunt coordination everywhere. But he was driving from one set to another, and he was like, okay, if you call me during this time, I will be able to pull off on the side of the road and we can talk. And so he pulled off into a gas station for 30 minutes in the middle of like Ireland or something.
No way.
And we did this interview. And that's one of the only interviews that I've gotten like misty over. Because he was so humble about everything. Because if you think about the prequels, you think about The Lasting Legacy, and you brought up John Williams already. Sure. But if someone that like quote unquote hated the prequels, they'd be like, well, at least the fights were good and the music was good. Those things are so intrinsic to like how incredible those movies are.
Sure.
And he's like the person that made that all happen.
Oh yeah.
So it was really, really, really cool to be able just like to talk to him for 30 minutes and like thank him.
That's awesome because I don't know, he has such a special place in my heart because you watch all these behind the scenes stuff. He's there the whole time. Like he with bending the lightsaber, the metal lightsaber,
right?
And the little thing. I love that moment. He's got such a welcoming look and welcoming face. And I mean, he spent a lot of time with these actors to get this stuff down. And like, you watch it and it's literally one half of it is the real actor. And the other half is the obviously extremely well done, like, stunt person. But like, I was really looking at Duel of the Fates the other day because I was teaching my kids about Duel of the Fates just because we had some kill time in class, and I'm watching it and like it's all Liam, and like Liam is like killing it with Darth Maul, and then Ewan does it, and like it's just so phenomenal. Like they went to that next level with that. I don't know. I hope he shows back up at some point. He never did anything the sequel trilogy, did he?
No.
Okay. Well, maybe with Mandalorian, maybe.
Or maybe with Kenobi. He loves Ewan.
Oh, could you imagine?
Cool. Could be cool.
I'm telling you, if we see half these names show back up on Kenobi,
it would be crazy.
We're throwing a party where I'm driving to Dallas.
It'd be great. Yeah,
it'd be ridiculous.
Like, here I am.
Here I am, dude. No, and the last one. Okay, the last one on here showed up late. I believe he showed up for Revenge of the Sith, right? That was one of the first ones he worked on. Ian McCaig. Pretty sure he didn't.
No, he was there. He was there the entire time. He was there.
Oh, did he do Phantom Menace too? I didn't know. He did Phantom Menace
because he designed Maul. And he designed Padme. He designed a bunch of Padme stuff, and even the braids of the Jedi, like the top knot and the braid that we associate, is all with him. So
genius.
Yeah.
Genius. And like, now, I mean, that's the best part about this. He's still doing Star Wars stuff, right? And I I think that's kind of how I wanted to wrap all this up, Brandon. It's like a lot of these people, of course, went on to do their own things, but you've got people like Doug Chang and John Knoll who are now veterans. Like they have been there since like 1990, and they've been there as long as we've been alive, dude. And they have been there day in and day out. And I know Doug had some moments where he wasn't there, and some moments that he was. And I think it's so crazy to think that the Mandalorian is this amazing conglomeration of all of it, right? I mean, you look at those the credits at the end, and like every one of those names just means so much to prequel Star Wars fans, right? I mean, I don't know, and like to see Doug working on stuff, it's just something that's so incredible. And the fact that they were doing, like a mini Dykstra camera again with like DSLRs, and like John Knoll was like making a model in his like what was his garage. Like, dude, it is a back. Like that is it coming full circle. And I love the sequel trilogy. I love Solo and Rogue One. But what we're getting in The Mandalorian is like everything that is old and new, all of it meeting right now. I don't know. Is there anything you want to say about that in particular?
No, I think Mandalorian, especially as we move further in, even this last episode, now kind of showcasing some sequel stuff, is making me feel more and more good about The Mandalorian, because I think the strength of season 1 was to get a lot of people that might not have liked Star Wars over the past 10 years to like Star Wars again by showing them, do you remember this action figure? Do you remember this toy? Do you remember this? Right? And I'm like, okay, I get it. I understand what you need to do. So there's part of me and obviously part of you that's like, well, I also really want to see some prequel stuff, right? That was a big miss, I think, in especially Rise of Skywalker. If you're tying in all the movies, like tie in the prequels. In a more tangible way. And then as we move forward, especially when now we're doing cloning, we're doing Camino, we're doing all these like things that are popping up that kind of set the whole tapestry of things, and even showing reference to things that happened in the Clone Wars, and kind of pulling it all within one Star Wars tapestry, I think is going to be the strength of The Mandalorian, and having people that have worked for now 30 years where the prequels feel as important to them as maybe the original trilogy did for the people coming in to work on the prequels, is going to make a huge amount of difference. And so I can't really wait to see what else they do.
Well, and I think the sequels did this right. They did the perfect combination of digital and physical, in terms of set combinations. And now we got The Mandalorian where like almost literally everything is physical. Even the set, even though it's an LED panel, you're still in an environment that you could literally see the lights move in their eyes. Like I think we are on the cusp of this perfect blend of everything. And I think from here on out, if they follow the same trope they've been following with The Mandalorian, almost not that I don't want anything new, but if you're going to throw old Star Wars in there, you got to pay respect to all of it. M Count, like who would have thought that was going to show up? M Count, like that was something that made me stand up. Because I was like, they are admitting to it. Where the sequel, literally, JJ was like, we're going to throw a skull and bones of Jar Jar and on Jakku. And I'm like, I don't miss
it.
That.
I mean, I loved Ryan literally having Mark Hamill say Darth Plagueis.
Darth City.
Cool.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that was cool.
It was amazing.
Like, here we go, man.
That was just enough. But now we're literally getting things like M Count. And like, I mean, at the time of this recording, for anyone that wants to know, we don't know if Ahsoka shows up in the chapter 5 yet. But think about that. I mean, people that aren't diehard fans, they're gonna be like, "Oh, I wonder who that is. That's pretty cool. She's got 2 white lightsabers." Like, what? And we're gonna be like crying, and it's gonna be a whole thing that weekend. But like, I don't know. I really do believe right now we're at this wonderful, wonderful meeting place, and I don't know, Brandon. I'm so glad we can share this moment together. I really am.
Thank you for having me on.
Dude,
love talking about this kind of stuff. This is what I talk about when cameras are off and it's just my fiance and she's like, "Okay, why are we talking about Knoll again?" And I'm like, "Listen, Maggie, we have to." So,
oh man, I get it. My girlfriend, she'll every now and then throw the line into me. I'll crush you like a bog. And it makes me laugh constantly because they're aware of it, but they're not aware of it. Like, I mean, you know this, probably every other waking moment of your life is Star Wars. Like literally you're like, I wonder I wonder how they're going to do this, in the book or in the comic or in the audio drama. I don't know. I'm glad that you and I could have our mind melding and explore everything prequel and now. And Brandon, this is a treat, dude. Plug your stuff. Where can people find you, man?
Yeah, you can find me at TalkingBay94 everywhere. Twitter, Instagram are the ones that are kept up most to date. If you want to see what I'm buying on eBay, definitely Twitter, TalkingBay94. And then everywhere you listen to podcasts, there I am. iTunes, Spotify, wherever. Upcoming episodes this week, we have Chris Bartlett, who played a bunch of different roles in The Mandalorian. He's also the official C-3PO now for Lucasfilm. He was most recently the protocol droid in this last episode of The Mandalorian, the teacher.
Nice.
He was the Kubaz with the flute in the first episode. He was Bounty Hunters. He was the Zero, the Bounty Hunter.
That's huge.
That Bill Burr episode. So he's done a bunch. Really nice guy to talk to. Then we have some other ones. We have the guy that designed the opening crawl for Star Wars.
Shut up! That's so sick.
That was cool to talk to him. And then on Friday, we are going to be doing a Black Friday merch drop.
Nice.
Of new things that people have been asking for.
Yeah.
And then some new things on top of that. So it'll be cool. So you can check all that on my social media.
I think Brandon's one of the best follows you can find because he'll find some interesting and weird stuff that he'll share. And I don't know, I'm just glad this community can exist and there's people like you that are like really just shining lights. Like Brandon's not the one to make a post that's like too controversial. Brandon's always just this joyful person that'll just be like, hey, don't let me buy this. And then you look at it and you're like, how do I find that listing? Because I'm going to buy it.
Right.
And like,
I never put the listing. I never put the listing.
You put a screenshot.
One person, there was like someone had their hat from Taco Bell when they worked at Taco Bell during Phantom Menace. They had their hat and it was on eBay. And I was like, don't let me buy this. It wasn't that expensive. And then someone found it and they tweet at me like, thank you, I bought it. I was like, thank you for buying it so I wouldn't have to. And so I was like, thank you. Thank you for doing this.
Oh, dude, it's solid. I mean, it happens. It really does happen. But Brandon, pleasure having you. If you don't mind, I'm going to get my plugs in and then we'll wrap it up. So if you had a great time with Brandon and me and you want to go find his stuff, listen to everything you just said. Talking Bay 94 is fantastic. But if you liked us, you can still like us. You can subscribe, you can like, you can share this. Please rate us 5 stars on iTunes and please review us. We love a good review or a bad one. Reviews are fine. If you really liked it and you want to support us on Patreon, go to Beyond the Blast Doors. Okay, that's where you go to patreon.com/Beyond the Blast Doors. Keep with us online at beyondtheblastdoors.com. And if you want to follow us on Twitter at Bombadcast, you can follow us there. And you want to call us, leave us a message at 331-BEYOND, to Beyond. Okay, 331-223-9663. And one more thing to kind of end all this on. Please go support the Hyper Toy Drive. When you support it, you're supporting Toys for Tots. And right now, they are not doing so hot with the COVID stuff. So by all means, if you've got a little spare change, help a kid in need get a wonderful Christmas gift on this Christmas of 2020 that hopefully will be a nice ribbon or bow at the end of this whole entire hectic year. But Brandon, usually at the end of every show, I have my guests say the wonderful words to Stay Bombad. Brandon, give us a beautiful Stay Bombad.
Hey, stay Bombad, everybody.
All right, y'all. Enjoy the rest of your evening. Have a good one.
The following presentation
All Bombad.